News Weekly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 149 in year 3. Man, we are coming up on year 4 pretty soon. Wait, how do I do math? It's in the, what, 60s? No, 50 something, right? I think in like a few weeks.
Yeah.
We'll be entering year 4, which is pretty insane. Year 50, but episode 150 will be next week, ladies and gentlemen. But we do have a few talking points this week, but we are going to start off the podcast with a little bit of a sour note, or I should say sad note, and that is the passing of Alan Grant. This is all over Twitter right now. We literally I woke up an hour or so ago before we recorded this podcast and saw a lot of comic people talking about it, which is pretty crazy. And for anybody that doesn't know Alan Grant, he has worked on a lot of iconic Batman stuff, but Clay was letting me know that he is the creator of some pretty cool characters. So,
yeah, he is the co-creator of Victor Zsasz. I know that when the announcement that Zsasz was going to be a part of the Harley Quinn movie, the Birds of Prey movie, Shadow of the Bat #1 was a very hot book. I was able to grab it at the comic shop that I used to work at.
Nice.
So there's that book. He started his Detective Comics run, I believe, on Detective Comics 583. I kind of want to go see if I can go find that book. It's not really anything of importance as far as story or whatever, but it's just his first Detective Comics book. So yeah. I think that's pretty cool. He also helped create the Ventriloquist. I can't remember anything else that he helped made. Ratcatcher, I think you said also.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really sad. Of course, he is a Scottish writer, and I just watched a video this morning. It was an interview a couple years ago, if not like in the last 5 years, basically saying how he really was trying to put his roots into DC Comics, and not just DC, but Marvel as well, because he did write a whole lot of Punisher and all of that stuff. Nick Fury as well. He actually put a lot of his detective run, or like the start of his detective run, in Scotland. Like,
yeah, it's got a vibe. It definitely has a vibe to it, for sure.
Yeah, he definitely like forced these heroes to make their way to Scotland for whatever mission or whatever, and he was determined to put Scotland on the map for American comics, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. Also, according to this article, it says he lent his pen to several intercompany crossovers, such as Batman vs. Dredd, Judgment of Gotham, Batman / Daredevil, King of New York, and Superman vs. Terminator, Death to the Future. So
that's pretty cool. Before he jumped onto DC Comics, because I think DC was his first big two company that he worked with. Before he did that, he did 2000 AD, which is a lot of the Dredd comics. Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool that he was able to write the Dredd Batman comic.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. So R.I.P. Alan Grant. It seems like we've been losing a lot of Batman legends lately, which is kind of sad. But also, it's kind of what happens when you've had a character that's been around for 80 plus years, you know? So,
yep.
You know, that's a human lifetime. So pretty crazy. But we have a lot, not a lot to talk about, but we have some interesting things, such as a rumored Zatanna casting. Now, this is interesting because is this even going to be a thing? You know, with the new merger of WB and Discovery, like, we don't know what's being kept around and what's being axed.
Yeah.
I know Clay is kind of giddy, not giddy about possible Henry Cavill rumors at San Diego Comic-Con.
I've had a lot of discussion about this all day yesterday, but like, the whole thing about Henry Cavill is the fact that, like, oh, he might show up, he might not, and then reports are saying that he's actually overseas because he is actually filming Witcher right now. But there was a report of some random person in LA bumping into him like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, he could have definitely got on a plane since then. You know, that's not impossible. And that's what more people are saying. Well, it's not impossible for him to get like a red eye plane all the way to LA just for the announcement.
Yeah. San
Whereas
Diego.
people are like, oh, well, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's in San Diego. But
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
saying it's in LA?
No. They're saying that like he got bumped into by some random person and they tweeted about it in LA.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
they're like, oh, LA is not that far from San Diego comparatively.
2 hour drive.
So you could easily get him to get over there. But if he is already in the UK filming Witcher, then it's going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
There's reports of him like Skyping in just to give the announcement, and I'm like, that's not worth it.
Yeah.
Like you should just wait for that announcement. Make him have it in person. But it's funny that you bring up Henry Cavill, because I didn't even know that this rumored casting for Zatanna, which is Dua Lipa, I didn't know she could act. She's in a movie with Henry Cavill right now. It's going to be filming pretty soon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And she is rumored to be Zatanna. How do you feel about Dua Lipa as Zatanna?
I'm hoping Dua Lipa is a pop singer, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not familiar with her music. I'm pretty sure I've heard her music, but I couldn't tell you like, oh, that's Dua Lipa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will say, just looking at photos, it doesn't seem like she would be opposed to wearing the classic fishnet Zatanna outfit. Now, I don't know if DC would allow that or if they would be getting a female director to be like, we're not going to get you to wear that. But it would be really cool is if she were to get it and she's like, oh, can I wear the classic outfit? You know what I mean? Because I think all actors should be approached with a certain type of outfit and be like, are you okay with this? You know what I mean? I don't think the men matter so much, but I think it's probably the women that would take more like concern about it. They're like, I don't want to be objectified by some of these costumes. But if they want to wear it, then let them wear it. And I feel like Dua Lipa might be interested and be like, yeah, give me that one. So,
like, if anything, what you should do is, and we've seen this all over in comic book movies as well as actual comic books, they have concept art for costumes. They're like, okay, we have 6 costumes laid out. What do we want for the feeling of this movie? And I feel like you should really bring in your lead actor and actresses to, make a suggestion on how they think the character should be displayed.
Yeah. I would hope we would get classic Zatanna though. Like, cause that outfit is so dope. But we'll see what happens. Some people, I mean, it depends on who you say. Like, I know one of the biggest things when it came to the Cowboy Bebop remake or not remake, the live action. The female was the female. I don't want to say co-star. I guess co-star is the right word. Female lead is what I was trying to say. Yeah. She was like, we tried a bunch of different costumes. There's no way you can get that thing to work. And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure cosplayers would tell you you're wrong. But yeah, I don't know. They still could have chosen better colors. The Cowboy Bebop show just blows my mind on how bad it was. But yeah, so I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see. I don't know if Dua Lipa is a good actress. My biggest thing is I always want the actor to be believable. So I don't necessarily have a big feeling on it. She seems fine. And it would kind of fit with, I think some people with Zatanna would be like, oh, she's white or whatever, but I don't think her dad is. Her dad has like a hardcore ethnic name, doesn't he? So I don't think.
I am not entirely sure. From what I see here via just like Googling her, she was born in the UK in London. And
Zatanna or Dua Lipa?
Dua Lipa.
Okay, I was talking about Zatanna.
Oh, Zatanna.
Yeah.
Well, Zatanna's character, she is also. See, I don't know where her father originates, because I know that some people have said that they are from Spain. Others have put them in like Argentina or Brazil. Like it's been a few different iterations.
She gonna be brown is basically what it would be. And that makes sense. I'm cool with that. I am cool with that kind of stuff. Cause again, we don't get a lot of Latinos or, depending on how everybody wants to categorize themselves, Spanish, whatever. We don't get a lot of that. So I'd be down with that. And the animated series, like, I won't lie to you though, like when it comes to some types of art that I've seen, I always thought that Alexandria Daddario would have been great, but she would be the white version of Zatanna, but her eyes are fucking gorgeous. And I feel like she has the blue eyes like Zatanna does. And I feel like that'd be really awesome. But I'm down with Dua Lipa. I mean, she seems fine.
As long as she can pull it off, I'm okay. My biggest fan cast for this role has always been Ana de Armas.
Yeah, she's really big too.
And then her father being Antonio Banderas as Natara would have been freaking amazing. But we will see. Like you said, we have no idea if this is actually going to be made. And right now, Dua Lipa is only rumored to be approached for this role.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, I mean, she's a singer, so I mean, I feel like she'd be able to do it pretty easily. Because she's able to, I would assume you have to memorize all your song lyrics and stuff like that, right? But Zatanna is not your normal type of character. You have to be able to speak backwards. So that's, I would think, could be hard for anybody.
Unless you do movie magic and legitimately just rewind everything audio-wise for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess they could do that. It would be interesting to see how they're going to film that, but yeah, we'll see if they go with that. It would be very interesting. But yeah, so there's your rumored casting for Zatanna. Let's go to, before we jump into the Batgirl stuff, because I feel like that's a bigger talking point. There is a Harley Quinn podcast. Now, I don't know anything about this, but you mentioned that there's a casting of Christina Ricci.
Yes.
Right?
So apparently a couple of my friends actually knew about this like 2 weeks ago, but it was officially announced yesterday. It looks like there's going to be a Spotify podcast following Dr. Harleen Quinzel as she works at Arkham and comes into her first contact with Patient J.
Of course.
Their relationship will help her with the money that she needs to raise her sick father, but at what price? It looks like Billy I don't even know how to pronounce that last name. Billy Magnuson, I guess. Magnuson
no idea.
is playing the Joker, while Justin Hartley, aka Green Arrow from Smallville, will be voicing Batman.
We've had so many Batman castings.
Okay, so if you have seen, did you watch No Time to Die, the James Bond movie?
No.
Okay, so the really cool thing with how we are recording this is I can actually share my screen with Juice right now.
Oh yeah, we're using new software because our other software fucking hates me for some reason.
That is Joker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, this is all voice though, right?
Yeah, this is all voice. It's not going to be anything live action. He's only playing the voice. This is Billy Magnuson. He also played a small role in the Aladdin live action movie.
Oh, was he the white guy they inserted that was not in the show at all? Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's not something you want to be associated with. Disney was like, we need a white person in this movie. White people won't watch it.
But then, like I said, Justin Hartley will be playing Batman. And it looks like Eli Horowitz will be writing the series along with Matthew Derby and Rachel Kong. No word yet on when Harley Quinn and the Joker Sound Mind, that's what the title will be, Harley and Joker Sound Mind, will debut on Spotify.
Be very interesting to hear Christina Ricci's voice as Harley Quinn and how she portrays it, because not everybody could do it. That was one of my biggest thing with Margot Robbie. I was worried, and I feel like she did it really well. And I was like, okay, cool. But the person that I thought could have been okay that turned out to be pretty bad was the chick from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, that
the
was
other one, the not the main chick, not Kelly Coco, the other one.
Yeah,
and she was bad in the movie. And I was just like, ugh. But Kelly Coco surprisingly is pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so it'll be see. I feel like there have been more hits than misses with Harley Quinn, but I still wish in another universe, I know it exists out there, Brittany Murphy would have been the perfect Harley Quinn.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Brittany Murphy would have been so fire.
But I just wanted to say, I haven't seen or heard of Christina Ricci in my own personal life since the Addams Family. So this will be very interesting to listen to.
I always get her confused with that one chick that is always part of the Me Too movement that calls out all the other women for being shams. They look similar. I want to say, is it something Rowan? Rachel Rowan? I don't know what her name is, but she's part of she calls out a lot of the people from the Me Too movement. She essentially, I think she talks a lot of shit about that girl that's always at the movie theaters. You know, the trivia chick.
Yeah.
I feel like she calls her out all the time. I think there's like a famous clip of her being like, I don't like her. Like it's like this, but I forget the girl's name. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. But yeah, so there's that. Now, before we move on to Batgirl, I need to get your opinion on this because it was the biggest topic of the week. What are your thoughts about the WB Snyder Cut bot thing?
I knew you were going to bring
because
it up.
you've changed over time when it comes to the Snyder people.
I changed over time because I said I was all for, okay, if this Snyder Cut turns the tide and there's an actual mutual relationship between Snyder and WB and they want to move forward with things, let's go. Let's bring it on. I want to see the rest of this movie. And then when Zack Snyder himself saw a better opportunity at Netflix and then stopped doing anything and everything DC, I was like, okay, good for him. Let's see what he can do at Netflix. And then every fucking cultist was like, no, he needs to make DC movies. It doesn't matter what he wants. We need it right now. It's just like, Jesus Christ, fuck. Like, just leave the man alone. The idea of bots being done for the movement, a fucking no-brainer. I'm sorry. It's just like, it's going to happen. It happens with everything nowadays. It's not surprising whatsoever. But as far as my thoughts on the article over at Deadline and the debacle that was 2 days ago, it's absolutely pointless. And the reason why it even came out was the fact that Zack Snyder's Justice League came out on digital 2 days ago. And that was like the big thing. But the movie's already made. It's done. It's put out there. Like the Snyder fans, the DC Snyder fans already won because they got their movie. Yeah. And WB already won because the DC Snyder fans that are like, WB, you fucking suck. Here's my money. They're still subscribed to to HBO Max. They are making them trend every so often. And then they're buying their merchandise.
Yeah.
Like, it's a stupid argument.
That was the funniest thing I saw. I saw somebody being like, just bought my second version of the digital Justice League. Take that, WB. And I'm like, they're making money off of you, you dumbass. Like,
it's so stupid.
It's so dumb. People's mindsets, man. It's like when people burn shit, right? After they're like, I'm protesting this, and they burn it. I'm like, you already paid for it, though. Like, at least sell it to somebody that's willing to buy it. You know what I mean?
I know. Like make your money, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you should be doing.
Sell it for more. You know what I mean? Yeah, I always think the overreaction from some people are very dumb when it comes to that. I don't care about this. I know Ray Fisher loved this, though. He was like, yeah, I'm relevant again. I can say some shit. And he was trying to jump on that train. But yeah, I just thought it was so dumb. I was like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a coordinated attack from WB and Zack Snyder. They're like, hey, look, we're going to release this bot thing. It's going to cause up a lot of drama. It's going to get a lot of people to buy your Zack Snyder stuff. So that way you can be like, look at how many people bought my thing. You can use that in your other deals. Makes us more money. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that was happening behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because these are big corporations. They just want us to buy shit. and we do. And like, so if you know you could easily manipulate people by putting out a negative story about their favorite person and it gets them to buy shit, why wouldn't you do that? Jake Paul has made it his fucking life. Everybody wants to see Jake Paul get knocked out, so he keeps boxing random people, and everybody's like, all right, this guy's going to knock him out, and he keeps winning. And it's like, fuck.
Did you see that conversation with, what was the other Paul?
Logan Paul?
Logan and The Miz?
On Raw? I didn't watch it, but I know that they're going to fight at SummerSlam. He's a part of WWE now.
Yeah, he signed on, which
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Surprisingly, he's actually pretty good. And I hate to admit that. He's pretty good. He fought, dude, that guy, as much as I'm indifferent to him now. Like, I don't care what he does or what he doesn't do. I disliked him for a really long time, but when you are able to just do the shit he's been able to do, I have to kind of respect it. It's like Tom Brady, right? I hate Tom Brady, but I respect that he's been able to fucking win 20 million championships or whatever he's done. But this dude wrestled Rey Mysterio, a legend, at I think it was at WrestleMania. Yeah, I think they fought at WrestleMania. Imagine making your debut at WrestleMania for your fucking first ever match. And he did like an Eddie Guerrero fucking frog splash. He got up on the thing, did the shoulder shimmy, and he fucking did the frog splash. Dude, he was flying over the ring and like jumping over people and stuff. Like, he's an athletic motherfucker. Like, it's pretty crazy.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find that fight.
It's probably on YouTube. And insane. I was just like, he was actually entertaining as a wrestler. His personality is lame. I don't like his personality, but he could be a really good heel because people already hate him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're trying to make him a babyface, and that doesn't work. Like, people don't like him. You need to make him a heel so people don't like him, and then eventually make him a good guy over time. But he needs to do a lot of shit you hate him for first.
Yeah.
Because that way, when he saves your favorite guy, then you're just like, oh, we like him now. That's just how it works in wrestling. But yeah, surprisingly, he's pretty good. So yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on from the Zack Snyder stuff to Batgirl rumors. I don't know what these are. These are actually statements, right? About Batgirl?
Yes, they are statements. It has been confirmed that Batgirl is going to be coming out in 2023. So we were suspecting that move to go about just because of the Flash and everything else, but it wasn't confirmed until just this past few weeks. But there was a statement made, and I'll actually read off the quote here, because the actual tweet was, I would say, taken out of context.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have this tweet, or
I do have the tweet. It is actually, well, I lost it now.
Okay.
But it was taking this quote here, saying, I can't remember who it was that is actually talking. I think it is L. Arby, which is, I believe, the he's one of the directors.
Okay, yeah. Two dudes.
Yeah, because there's two guys. So he is saying, well, we'd sort of given the same answer because we also ask. Well, he says, well, we would sort of give the same answer because we would also ask, oh, you have J.K. Simmons from the Snyderverse, and we also got Michael Keaton from the Burtonverse. What's the situation there? So they're saying, hey, we asked the studio this.
Yeah.
And they would say, don't worry about it. We got a plan. They never really explained that aspect to us, but I guess you're going to have to see the other movies to understand what happens. Why the reason is that we ended up in a sort of spaghetti of multiverses in that aspect. And so the quote that was taken out of context and was placed on all these tweets when this interview came about was they inserted the name Batgirl is set in a spaghetti of multiverses.
Yeah.
And then the finishing of the quote is, it's going to be a delicious spaghetti. I'm sure of it. Mm-hmm. So from what we are seeing and kind of the aspect that we were talking about in the sense of there was Batgirl screenings not too long ago. And there was rumors of people enjoying it and then some people being very confused. Well, those people clearly did not watch the Flash screening that was a couple months ago. So you clearly need to see the movies prior to Batgirl, which is the Flash. So the idea of DC making this change to a hard continuity of, hey, you need to watch the movies prior to get what the story is telling you. I don't know if that's going to be the way it is from now on, or just for the fact that we are getting Keaton from the Flash and now moving to Batgirl.
Yeah. I would assume that's what they're trying to go to, because it seems like that's what what's his name? Zaslav? Is that his name? Yeah. It seems what he wants, right? Like his thing is like, we are going to make DC like Marvel, right? I hopefully not in the slapstick comedy kind of way that they like to do, but you know, in the model of like everything connects, you know?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they're going to. Still confusing if there is going to be a Batman cameo in Aquaman. That'd still be really weird because that's coming out before the Flash, unless that is just a tentative date right now. And then maybe if the Flash finishes early, they'll switch. You know what I mean?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Because that is always a possibility, you know? I do think, I mean, now that Comic-Con, we'll be talking about Comic-Con in a little bit. Now that Comic-Con is here, we're going to get a lot of news this coming weekend. And then we should start hearing about fucking fandom pretty soon.
If there's still a fandom, because people think that because Zaslav is a money guy, that he may have thought, hey, fandom is taking too much of our money and we're not reaping any benefit from it. So he decided, hey, instead of spending all this money on this production for fandom, let's just divvy out the money for Hall H.
You think so? I thought like DC doesn't even have a booth this year though.
No.
So like I don't think they're part of Hall H right now.
They are.
There's a little. It's like only Shazam and Black Adam though, right?
It's Shazam and Black Adam, and that is it. Now, of course, you have like they've planned out a DC panel. If you follow Tom Taylor, they're doing a Dark Crisis.
Oh yeah, there's always comic stuff, but I'm talking about Hall H.
But Hall H, yeah, I don't expect us getting any news. Now, I did make predictions on my other show, just kind of like hey, I'm really crossing my fingers for this stuff. I know, like, it's almost like if they don't do this, it's a slap in the face to all the fans. But if you're going to have Shazam and Black Adam, you better be promoting a future Black Adam versus Shazam movie, right?
Yeah. I don't know. What would be hilarious is, I don't know if you saw it. I think I retweeted it. Did you see Kevin Hart slap the shit out of The Rock with the tortilla?
Yeah.
Dude, I was laughing so hard. I'm not a big Kevin Hart fan, but Kevin Hart with people is funny. Like when he's with Snoop Dogg, it's fucking funny. When he's with The Rock, I think it's funny. But dude, the way the Rock got so pissed, they should have done that. Him and Zachary Levi, they'll just slap each other with tortillas. Like,
well, there's, a lot of people are expecting a Shazam versus Black Adam announcement. I threw out the idea of you could probably get your James Gunn project announcement.
Yeah,
maybe, but that is really in left field for me. But other than that, people are just really hanging on to this rumor for Henry Cavill.
Yeah, it's really weird. I'd have to look at the schedule because I know how it goes. Like Hall H is scheduled pretty heavy, but usually if there are spaces that say special announcement, that's usually some secret shit. So I don't know if that's how it is, because if you're doing Black Adam and Shazam, that means probably in between is where they would announce Superman, unless he's just going to come out at the very end. But yeah, I don't really know where that's scheduled.
From what I've seen, everybody says that the DC or Warner Brothers Discovery panel is only an hour long.
Yeah, they're usually no more than an hour. Yeah. So if he'd probably come out at the end, if any, because the WB panel isn't going to be just DC stuff. It's going to be their other movies too. So like if there's a new Harry Potter or something like that, Godzilla or whatever the hell they own, It'll be all of that, and then they usually end with the superhero shit. So that is very possible that that's when Henry Cavill will come out. If he comes out for DC, because a lot of people think he might come out for Marvel. So, which would be random, which would be weird that all of this stuff is saying that he's coming out for DC. That means everybody would just be talking out of their ass, and just wishing for the best at that point. But anyways, I know we're going to talk about comics in a little bit, but let's go ahead and just knock this out now because it could be a bigger talking point. You told me that the internet, or I guess Twitter, which, you know, you can take that with a grain of salt when it's always on Twitter, that people are upset at homophobic Batman this week. So what's the story on this?
Okay, so this comes from, and I sent you the panels in question.
Yeah.
This is coming from Dark Crisis Young Justice #2. So, for a little bit of backstory for those who aren't reading Dark Crisis or listening to our coverage of Dark Crisis, of course, the Justice League is assumed dead. What we know is that the Justice League has been transported to these random worlds that is basically their individual utopias. They're worlds without the chaos and the danger of everyday life in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for some reason, no explanation has been given for this, but for some reason, Connor, Bart, and Tim Drake from Young Justice have all been sent to the same random Dark Crisis world where it is basically their 90s run, where if basically their 90s run, if it continued from the 90s.
Okay.
Because there's a villain there, which I think is absolutely hilarious. In the 90s, it was a different world back then for us.
Yeah.
There was a bad guy, or bad woman, should I say, that was a villain of Young Justice, named the Mighty Endowed.
Nice.
And the joke was, when they created that character, was that she had big boobs. That was it. That was her like thing for that character. So much so that in Dark Crisis, Young Justice #1 and 2, when they are fighting her, you can see, for some odd reason, the scuffle that she is having with our Young Justice heroes currently.
Yeah.
There's always a cloud of smoke covering her boobs so people won't get mad at it.
Anime style.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And it just looks really stupid because, like, for no reason, she'd be standing all by herself in these Dark Crisis books, and there's just, like, smoke, like, right over her chest.
Yeah.
For no reason whatsoever.
I had to look at these panels.
But they ended up defeating her. I think it is oh shoot, what is her? Cassie, Wonder Girl, is able to defeat her. She's like, okay, guys, let's go back to HQ, and they're going to the Watchtower, where they see all the rest of the Justice League, and they're like, oh man, this is an Earth where like the Justice League are still alive, and this is awesome. Maybe we shouldn't go back, blah, blah, blah. And Tim Drake is talking to Cassie and Batman. And to the point where Batman is like, oh, well, or I think it's Cassie that says, oh, I think Spoiler would really enjoy that you're back, blah, 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 blah. And Tim is like, well, I'm not really with Spoiler. I'm with Bernard. And Batman, and let me actually grab the actual panel to quote it here. I think I sent it to you.
I'm looking at these photos, and like, I don't see how this is different than any other female character that's got big boobs. Like, it's not that.
But it was the fact that her character is like, it was basically, if there was no other word for big chested, her name would be like, hey, I'm big boobs. Yeah. That's basically it. But Cassie says, I'm sure Spoiler would love to get back together with you once you're the Batman, because it's basically all these other heroes are talking about how they should be taking the mantle.
Yeah.
And Tim Drake is like, well, I don't want to date Stephanie. I'm with Bernard. And Batman says, but you will. She's your destiny once you're out of this phase. And Tim Drake just like has this disgusting look on his face and is thinking, fucking what? Like,
yeah.
I know the context of these panels because I've read the book and I've read the prior issue. I know that in this world of Dark Crisis, there's going to be weird things that change in the continuity of each of these titles.
Yeah.
So it didn't really bother me. It was just like, that's really fucking weird. But you have these people who probably don't even read comics.
Yeah.
Go on to Twitter and they're like, oh, look, Batman's homophobic. It's like, well, we know that Batman in main continuity is not homophobic. Not big of a deal. But again, we've always talked about, why shouldn't you talk about the ignorance of people to teach everybody who is reading the lesson of acceptance and everything else, right?
Yeah.
We talked about it with Damien in the Pride issue with the John story. I thought that was excellent, but other people found it very offensive. They're finding the same thing offensive here. Whether it's ignorance, I'm not entirely sure, because I sent it to you and you're like, holy shit, Frank Miller's Batman is back.
Yeah. I was more offended that Batman thinks Tim Drake can be Batman. So, just saying. More offended by that. But no, in reality, I mean, if you were to read that panel by itself, it looks pretty bad. Like, it doesn't look great. But yeah, in context, I can understand it. Because in context of comics, too, you could take this as Batman knows the future, because he's technically been a god before. He's seen things. And he could be like, oh, yeah, well, in the future, you will be back with Stephanie Brown. And the thing that kind of sucks, too, is I guess, like, it's weird that we are in a world of comics, right? So we've seen a lot of these characters paired off and do things before. It might be a little unfair that the people that love Tim Drake and Stephanie Brown together automatically having to deal with this whole new thing, right? And like, oh, we can't have hope that they get back together in the future. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's comics. Like, people constantly see that. In every show, you always have people that feel like they should be with other people, right? You always saw stupid fucking Naruto going after Sakura when Hinata was right there, being a sensible woman and not trying to go after the douchebag fucking Sasuke, which is the fucking dumbest fucking relationship in fucking manga. Bullshit. Sakura. Useless Sakura. But yeah, anyways, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's drama, right? Like, I feel like some people forget that these comics can be dramatic or can cause issues, and that's kind of what it does. If anything, it got people to be interested in a book that nobody cared about. So, it is what it is. I'm not part of the community, so I can't sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? But as a comic book reader, I can see it from many different perspectives, because that's kind of how we've been taught to read things, right? We were just talking about it, and we're going to be talking about it again in Catwoman 45 here in a little bit. But people read comics very differently. And some people headcanon a lot of shit. And it's like, I feel like on this podcast have kind of always lived by the rule of, if you don't show it or explain it, it doesn't exist. Right? Yeah. Because what always happens after a big movie comes out, right? People make up shit, and then the directors are like, oh, yeah, that's meant to happen, and blah, blah. I'm like, no, you didn't fucking show it. You didn't talk about it in your whole run. It doesn't exist. Like, you can't just fucking headcanon that shit afterwards when people realize you made a mistake. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of how I read comics and I see it. But then, then you deal with the old heads that are like, well, technically back in 1954, Batman did, and you're just like, okay, bro. Okay. Damn. Shit. Sorry. And then, then everything matters continuity wise. So yeah, there's that. But I just thought that was interesting because, I thought it was like random, like, oh yeah, Clay was just like, I was like, what are we reading this week? It's like, this, unless you want to read Homophobic Batman. I was like, what? I was like, okay. But let's go ahead and move over to questions. Do we have anything on YouTube this week?
We have a question from Raphael. So his question is is there a villain or bad guy who doesn't belong to the world of superheroes, but would you add them to the list of Batman villains? To be a little bit more clear, for example, I would love Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, and I think he would be an excellent foil against Batman.
Mike is the hitman, if I'm not mistaken, right? Pretty sure.
I think so. Let me actually look at his character.
I think that's who it is. We've kind of answered this question in different forms.
I was gonna say, are we gonna say Dexter again for like the fourth
it's
true
time? Though it's like the crossover question, right? It's essentially the crossover question. But let's just try to think of other villains that would be good in, I guess, the Batman world. I mean, dude, honestly, because Batman is so crazy, you can bring in any like 80s horror guy and he would fit in Batman.
You know, so I know there could be a lot of cheese with this, but honestly, because I pitched it before as like the idea of you should have something like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and then at the very end you have Batman come in and save the day. But like, if Batman versus Freddy Krueger, Batman versus Jason, like, I think, you know, so non-Batman news, there's a new Jeepers Creepers coming out.
Oh God.
Yeah. So apparently, I didn't know this, but random side story. The person who created the first 3 Jeepers Creepers movies, apparently got arrested for pedophilia.
Oh wow!
And this
in
new
Hollywood, I'm shocked.
I know, but this new Jeepers Creepers has nothing to do with them. He's not getting any residuals from it. Like the studio has cut ties with him, and they're rebooting the series. And I was like, you know, I feel like Jeepers Creepers would be like a weird fucking Batman villain, you know?
Yeah, I think I would go with somebody like Michael Myers, dude. Like, that's an easy fucking Batman thing. Guy in a mask, killing people, terrorizing people, you know what I mean? Batman trying to figure out, like, how the fuck this guy's coming out. Yeah, I think you could pull in any of those 80s people and they'd be fine, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be interesting. Dude, you know what I learned about? And I might do a video on this on my channel today because I thought it was interesting. Did you know the Diary of a Wimpy Kid killed his mom?
What?
Yeah, I saw this. Apparently, he pleaded guilty like yesterday or 2 days ago, and that's why the story's popping up. But apparently, this kid, who was the star of the Wimpy Kid movies, shot his mom in the back of her head. And apparently, it was because he didn't want her to know he wasn't going to school. And I was like, bruh, you're in Hollywood. Like, what the hell? Yeah.
What?
I was fucking shocked. I was like, what the fuck? It was random. So
that is fucking wild.
Pretty crazy shit.
Not a wimpy kid anymore. Holy shit.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, that's the typical wimpy kid story, though, right? Wimpy kid fucking becomes incel, fucking ends up killing people. So I was like, damn. He took that role too serious. Method acting over here. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump over to, I believe we have some questions on Discord.
Yes, we have a couple, not a whole lot, but in regards to my usual Wednesday morning question, 4 questions. It looks like we have one from, and I did say, in case there wasn't a whole lot of questions, maybe some feedback on our whole idea of like rebooting DC.
Yeah.
Vinny took it as the movies.
Yeah.
And so he was like, oh yeah, you know, just get rid of everything because the only people that's left is really Jason Momoa. The slander on fucking Gal that he put on there,
yeah, I know,
is fucking insane.
I was like, bruh. He said Gal is pushing 40, and I was like, so? Like, have you not seen J-Lo? She's like pushing 60, and she looks fucking great. Selma Hayek's in her 50s, if I'm not mistaken. She looking great. Like, bruh. How are you going to just disrespect Gal like that? I was like, bro.
Absolutely insane. But then Charlie has a question. Who does Batman love more? His parents, Alfred, Dick, Catwoman, Talia, Damian, Ace? Who who does Batman love more than anything?
Well, he
Gotham.
doesn't love dick. Okay, let's just throw that out there. But
I'm gonna say Gotham.
I'm gonna say Alfred. I know he loves Gotham, but I don't think he loves Gotham more than he would love his parents. You know what I mean? I think you could say he loves his what is it? His crusade, if you want to say that, because it's for his parents. But trying to not do that cop out, you know what I mean, and actually pick a person or something, I would say Alfred, just because Alfred's been in his life way longer than his parents.
True.
So I would say that. Because Alfred was the father he didn't have. Because let's not forget that his parents were probably busy being socialites and all that kind of stuff. So Alfred was always there, you know what I mean? And Alfred was there after they died. And Alfred's been there every time he got hurt. And Alfred was there when he lost his memory and everything.
Yeah.
Like, so I would just say that Alfred is, you know, as much as people don't want to believe it, but like that is his true father. You know what I mean? Like it's Alfred. Yeah. And, you know, depending on what you read, he was there when he was a baby. So, like, he's been there his whole life. So,
yeah.
I would definitely say Alfred. I feel like that's kind of an easy one for me. But,
now, other than Drew hating our whole rebooting DC, the only other question that there is from Ethan. What would Batman think of Homelander? And I would just say Homelander is the Superman that Batfleck was afraid of. Like, yeah. That's so exactly how he treated Superman in Batman vs Superman. That's how he would treat Homelander.
Yeah, he would, but it wouldn't end up the way it ended up in BVS. You know what I mean? No. He would actually find a way to put him down, but again, you would be dealing with a Dark Knight Returns Batman that's okay with killing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he would definitely try to find a way to beat Homelander. Because Homelander's straight up killing people. Like Batman his detective skills would be able to figure that out. And he'd be like, oh yeah, that's definitely what's happening, blah, blah, blah. That was a pretty decent thing. But there's not really much you can go off of that because they're not going to cross over. You're not going to see that. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And then the final one is the DC question, right? Or the SDCC?
Oh, yes. Drew does ask, what is our San Diego Comic-Con predictions? And he said there's rumors of Superman and Deadpool announcements.
Well, apparently Deadpool is getting put on Disney Plus tomorrow.
Yeah, the internet is going wild right now. Both Ryan Reynolds and freaking Hugh Jackman are actually doing some synergy because they also announced that Logan is going to be put on Disney Plus tomorrow.
Do you think he's in Deadpool 3?
I think he might. I think he's in Deadpool 3 as himself.
As Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a way to get around him not having to work out and be crazy buff all the time, you know? Because that's the only reason he said he left. He was like, I'm tired of eating egg whites every fucking day or whatever, you know? Which again, that type of body type is really hard to fucking maintain, especially as you get older. So that was pretty crazy. I could definitely see him being in it. Because if I'm not mistaken, he's worn a Hugh mask in one of the movies, right?
No, it was a Hugh like page out of like a magazine. And he like stapled it to his head.
Yeah. So, I could definitely see him in it. I mean, it's weird that both of those movies would just go on at the same time, right? So I could definitely see something like that happening. It would be fucking wild if he's there as Logan, though. Like,
well, so the thing is that it's already been announced that Deadpool 3 is going to be a quote unquote fish out of water story. So I legit think it's Deadpool going from the Fox universe to the Marvel universe.
I want to see how censored it's going to be. As much as they say that, like, oh no, we have free reign, fucking bullshit. I don't believe that for a second. I think they're going to dumb down a lot of the comedy. Not dumb it down, but they're going to make it more friendly.
Like for them saying, because they keep doubling down on the fact that it will be rated R. I think they could put rated R on it, but I don't think it'll get as raunchy as it was with Deadpool 1 and 2.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have a montage of fucking in the movie. You know what I mean? Like the way the first one had. I don't think you're gonna have that kind of stuff because it's still gonna be eventually on Disney Plus, right? So they don't want kids to be like, "Oh, Deadpool, whoa!" You know what I mean? Which I'm very curious because that's gonna kind of happen with.
Well, so there's parental controls now on Disney Plus.
Oh, like parents actually watch their kids. Sure. It's not like I was over here getting on channel 99.
Well, so the whole thing is because I've done it on mine because I have like I have a couple profiles on my Disney Plus for my stepdad, my mom, my little sister, and my brother, and then me. So you have to like it when you make a profile, it's immediately a kid's profile. Like right now, if you haven't done anything to your Disney Plus, it is set to a kid's profile. You have to manually go into the settings and change it to mature content. It tells you that you have to then verify via your email. Go and do that. And then it tells you to go back to Disney Plus and then set up a passcode. So you have to take like 4 steps in order to actually get the mature content.
Interesting. Disney actually trying. That's cool. So yeah, I think is that all our questions that we got?
Well, as far as predictions, I've already said I think the James Gunn announcement might happen. I don't think Cavill's showing up because I had said if Cavill is showing up, it's for Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know, man. My prediction is we get a bunch of comic announcements that are Batman related. You're gonna get I think Tom King is working on. We're gonna get a Tom King announcement. I'm guaranteed because I think he's doing a panel with Tom Taylor.
Yeah, starting in like an hour or something.
I feel like we're gonna get another Batman related villain story that Tom King is gonna focus on. I think he's gonna take an obscure Batman villain and do a mini series or a maxi series, and Batman is just gonna be in the background. And I think he's gonna focus on that one character. So that's what I'm calling. Because why not? Like, I mean, there's so many D-list. Like, what if he did a whole series on Mothman? You know what I mean? Like, we saw that one, which was pretty fire.
But I need it to be in the same caliber, you know? Like,
yeah, well,
if it's Mothman, I need something like that. And I feel like that story of Mothman that we really loved, it was kind of in the same vein of like realistic shit happening to Mothman.
Yeah,
that was like making it to the point of like fucking tired of doing that shit, you know?
Yeah.
So that is up Tom King's alley. So I think he could do it.
Yeah, so it'll be very interesting. I do feel like he's going to do something like that because he said he's got announcements. And I asked him if he's done with Batman, and he said, we got some stuff going on. So I don't know if he's maybe because they're still doing Danger Street, but would you consider Danger Street a Batman thing? And that's already been announced, so I wouldn't count that.
No, I would not count that as a Batman thing.
Yeah, and then you have the Fate story that's going on.
That is Danger Street.
Are you sure? The artwork is very different.
Fate is a part of that story.
Let's see. Danger Street. Because like I just remember the artwork being hardcore different. I guess that's the same thing. The artwork with the hand and the Fate thing is way different than the like noir style that they're kind of promoting.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what that's going to be. So, so Danger Street is the only thing. He said that they're trying to get a bunch of the books in like the bank before they release it. So, kind of like if I'm not mistaken, Rorschach is the only King book that's went 12 months in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's what they're trying to do again. So that's cool. All right, let's move on to our comics. Now, you said you wanted to get my reaction on something. Does this got to wait for a certain book?
It does have to wait for a certain book, so I'll just wait until you want to talk about it.
Okay. Well, let's knock out vampires first.
Okay. So
is this it? Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right.
So the story of what is this? This is DC versus Vampires All Out War.
Uh-huh.
This is a 6-issue miniseries.
What? Why?
I have no idea. This is a 6-issue miniseries.
Out of already a miniseries or a maxi series.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Dude, it's getting really confusing with their spinoffs.
They are treating this like they treated Deceased.
Yeah.
The only problem is there was a lot of feedback on Deceased, and we didn't get any spinoffs until we heard a lot of that positive reaction and feedback.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of reaction, positive feedback for like the first 3 to 4 issues of DC versus Vampires.
Yeah.
But like, why push all of these spinoffs and one-shots in the same year?
I have no idea. And this one is one of those like where they're trying to do the anime stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of. So it was kind of hard to read at times because they do the like, we're just gonna do splashes of color. And which is cool, and maybe that's why they're able to save money. I will say the concept was intriguing of this story of Deathstroke being like, I need Batman, and he was going to take Batman to the last Lazarus pit in the world that they could find and bring him back that way. I will say I was hella intrigued by that because I'm like, oh, I want to see a Lazarus pit Batman.
Like, because they did talk about, they said, hey, doesn't the Lazarus pit like really fuck up your head?
Yeah.
And Deathstroke was like, I would rather have a crazed out Batman than fucking vampires all over the fucking world.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was essentially the story that was going on. But you want to know what happened in this book that really annoyed me? The villains are just too powerful, man. They're just too fucking powerful. Like you can't even breathe in any of these issues. Like you could have had the idea of just trying to bring back Batman be this whole story. But no, they had to have people die in the way of trying to get to Batman. Then these people were turned into vampires and they went back to the home base and they automatically infiltrated the whole fucking shebang. And I'm just like, ugh. But it was cool that they brought Damage back. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Nobody gives a shit about those characters in a long time, you know? But, and we got to see Midnighter. I like seeing Midnighter. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it was just, I'm so tired of like super overpowered villains. You know what I mean? Like, and granted, this is the same way people feel about like, oh, Batman always wins. Superman always wins. You know what I mean? But it's like, you got to have a fine balance. You got to allow them to try to plan and then get beat and then try to plan and then maybe almost win and do that kind of shit. But yeah, they instantly, you know, Damage came in. We got introduced to so many characters in this issue and they instantly blew up their home base. Yeah. With the nuclear bomb or whatever. And I was like, bruh, I don't know, man. The pacing of the spinoffs feels so different compared to the pacing of the main title. And I don't understand that.
Yeah, and I did talk to a friend of mine about this earlier in the week. And again, we loved the first issues of DC Vampire.
Yeah.
We really appreciated The Boy, the House of Gotham mini that was in the backups of Detective. But as crazy as this statement is going to sound, everything that Tynion has outlined for Rosenberg has been good. Mm-hmm. Everything that Rosenberg has done on his own or has spun out to, because Rosenberg hasn't written everything that has spun out of DC Vampires. Like the Harley Quinn one wasn't him, I don't think. And so it's like, everything that hasn't been outlined by Rosenberg has kind of been like meh.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's been really weird. I will say I was really intrigued by the Batman Resurrecting Batman. You know what I mean? Because I told you that they kept his body. I was like, I knew that he was still around.
But here's the thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't necessarily show that the pit was destroyed. But are they saying that you can only use it once? Because John Paul fell into it and he was cured from being a vampire. But they never just like threw Batman's bones in there to fix it or to bring him back.
Although it being Batman, he probably has like Batman in his bones, so he's probably crawling to the Lazarus pit and he's gonna get in himself. So I mean, it's very comic booky, you know what I mean? Yeah, I would love to make a joke right now of somebody who would probably do that, but spoilers, you know. So anyways, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't believe this is gonna be a 6-issue miniseries.
Yeah,
that's just fucking wild. I really have no words. Like, this thing just feels like, you know what this is becoming? It's becoming fucking Dark Knight's Metal 2.
God, no.
That's what it's not as bad. Definitely not as bad. We stopped reading that after the second book, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Because it was fucking monster trucks and random bullshit. I can't believe how bad that was. Like, I wonder if Snyder takes pride in that. Or if he's like, bro, I did that for money. I did that for money straight up, you know? Because that was a horrible book. Like, there's like, I think I would rather, as a writer, I would rather write less and have bangers than write a lot and have duds.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's kind of more of like Alan Moore. I think Alan Moore has way more bangers than he does duds. Alan Moore fans will probably tell you he doesn't have duds. But like, look at Johns right now. Johns ain't putting out bad shit. He's putting out good. He's been putting out good shit for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What would be, not including his indie shit, Clay, although I haven't read it, but like, what would be the last bad Johns book that you could think of?
The last bad Johns book.
Because Three Jokers was almost perfect. It was 3 pages away from being perfect.
He did do a Stargirl like one-shot story in the last like 3 years.
Was it a tie into the show?
It didn't tie into the show.
Oh, okay.
It was just its own thing. It was supposed to be like a, hey, this is going to bring back the Stargirl character.
Yeah.
And there's going to be like a mini series on her. And it never happened. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
But I will say it was also amidst everything that was going on at WB and DC. So his head probably wasn't into it, you know?
Which is crazy because that's his sister.
Yeah.
So like, can you imagine your worst, I don't want to say worst work, but your not so best work being the one thing you probably care about the most?
Yeah.
Which is insane. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, so anyways, that's Vampires, ladies and gentlemen. It had a cool concept. I wonder if they are trying to bring Batman back in this way, because I don't know where they're going. Like, who's going to beat Grayson? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be, because Hal died, right?
Hal did die.
Yeah. So like, you can't use the Wonder Twin girl to try to get her revenge for this whole story. You know what I mean? You should have kept Hal alive for that. So she's not going to be the savior of this. Maybe it's going to be, you're going to definitely have Supergirl fight Superman. That's definitely what they're building to. But yeah, I don't really know who the savior of this is all going to be. It's not going to be Damian. He's a vampire. It's not going to be Alfred.
He's a vampire hunter as well. So it's not like he is fighting for the vampires. So maybe, well, you know what? Green Arrow, he hasn't died yet.
Yeah. I think he's the only person that I think would be probably the best.
Or Batgirl.
Yeah. Oh, Batgirl killing Nightwing would be good because they had all that sexual tension.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll see. She should kill him right when they're about to do it. Like, come on, make me a vampire. Dead. Make that one of the side
seduction.
Yeah, right. Catwoman taught me this, bitch. Dead. But yeah, we'll see where these vampire things go. I'm excited to read the main title. The spin-off stuff is just really weird. So moving on from that, let's move on to a surprisingly not as weird issue of World's Finest.
Yeah, so with the continuity that we know of this book,
yeah,
this was the most fluid and not so like out there story, to be completely honest. Now the ending really confused me with that epilogue, because the epilogue that is at the very end has nothing to do with this story. It actually is main continuity. So we'll get into that when we start to talk about it. But our predictions were right in the sense of like Superman was going to be probably the one to suggest, hey, I'm going to do it. But then like Batman is like, oh no, I need to do it, blah, 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 which is so stupid, because Batman was like, oh, well, you know, once you're in there, you're going to be just as weak as all of us. And you're not that great of a fighter. So I should do it. And I'm like, dude, you're weaker than Superman in the sense of not being a Kryptonian.
Yeah.
But all you know how to do is fight. And this dude is a fucking Satan. He's a demon. Like,
but Batman has fought demons before, if we're going off comic stuff, you know? And this is why I've always said I want a panel, or I want a story of Batman training Superman in red lights where he has no powers. Yeah. And be like, if you ever lose your powers, you need to know how to fight. And he should be learning from Batman. Like, that should just be like a one-off thing. Like in a Batman book, he's like, oh yeah, Clark's already here. And they're like, why is Clark here? He's like, oh, we've been training or whatever. Like, that would just be a random cool panel. Like, oh fuck, Superman trains. And there you go. You just add to the lore of Superman. Like, bam. So I think that would be kind of cool. And then later on, you can have that actually happen in a book, and then people will think that they're going to win and be like, nah, bitch, I train with Batman. Whatcha? So I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, so we had all that. We have Supergirl being like, no, I have to do it because I killed Robin. And like, she's just super gung-ho on it. Then the Doom Patrol is like, nobody cares about us.
Like, so, we have Doom in our name?
Yeah, like we're meant to do this. And so like, that's pretty much all it is. And then, you know, they start figuring out, like they start fighting this villain. We find out that, oh man, what's his name? The Iron guy? I'm already forgetting his name. The robot, fucking
Robot Man.
Robot Man. No, yeah, it's the hardest name to remember. Robot Man actually is able to get some hits on this guy, and they're like, "Oh, he doesn't know modern tech," which is so weird.
But it is probably one of my favorite fucking panels. Like, just the surprised look on his face when he punches the shit out of this dude. Yeah, it was actually really cool.
Yeah, and they're like, keep fighting him. Like, he doesn't know how to use. I guess because Robot Man's made out of a certain type of metal or something, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's able to hurt this guy, and they're like, just keep doing that. He doesn't know y'all's modern day blah blah blah. And then that's when Superman's like, modern day shit or whatever. He's like, oh, you might adapt to Earth tech, but what about Kryptonian tech? And he sends him to the Phantom Zone. And I was like, is that how this is gonna end? He's just gonna get sent to the Phantom Zone? But of course, this guy was strong enough to get out of it, which I thought was kind of cool. Yeah. And that's when you see Superman sacrifice himself.
Do you know what him jumping out of the Phantom Zone reminded me of?
What?
The Majin Buu fight where they are stuck in the hyperbolic time chamber, and they have to fucking scream to rip a hole in the universe. That's what I got vibes of that when this happened.
Although I doubt Mark Waid has ever watched Dragon Ball Z. You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of cool that he ripped a hole in the Phantom Zone, got out of it. Superman sacrifices himself with the orb, because there was like some orb that would keep him in locked in there. And, you know, everybody's all like, oh man, I love how Supergirl and Batman are mourning, and Robot Man's like, hey, dude, we got to celebrate this win, though, bro. Like, you got to take the dubs. Like, and then Batman's all like, where's the gun? And he's like, oh, shit. And then Batman realizes that Superman took the Phantom gun with him, and so he automatically assumed that Superman would use it on himself. And since they had just tore a hole into the Phantom Zone, they were like, maybe we have a chance. And they used Negative Man to hold the zone open and end up pulling Clark out of the Phantom Zone, which I thought was pretty smart and pretty cool, because that is a good way to use Batman and Superman together instead of being like, oh yeah, we're just gonna beat him up. Like, no, you use Superman's super speed and his just greatness, and then you use Batman's smarts and thought process to actually have that happen. And he was all like, oh yeah, I knew you would notice. Like,
and I do like how they actually used a visual on him retelling the story, so you can actually see what happens. Superman destroying the Phantom Zone gun while he is disappearing into the Phantom Zone was really, really clever and cool. But then this book ends with Batman looking into the sunset, and they're making a promise to find Robin somehow.
Yeah. And then we see the end pages that say years later of Damian going to the temple that they just destroyed to keep this guy buried.
Yeah.
And apparently it's on Lazarus Island.
Yeah.
So is he the demon that he fought?
I hope not, because he's already fought him. You know? But this is the book that I believe Red Hood talked about in Discord. Mark Waid is making a Batman versus Robin book that is in continuity, and this now makes World's Finest a in continuity story,
meaning Batman and Superman have fused before.
Yeah. Meaning that if you want to go into the past, you just have to go through a time portal in the middle of the sky.
Yeah. Hey, I always say that you need to read comics like Doctor Who. So Doctor Who has random portals all over the place too.
True, but like the way they represented it in this comic, it feels like some random plane could just accidentally just fly through it one day.
Bermuda Triangle. You know, they use that for a bunch of shit. Yeah, this was really weird. I don't like that we're just gonna get like Damian sucks sometimes, man. Like, I don't understand why he's gotta be a little bitch. Like, he's gonna cause this whole thing to fight again. And also, if this is continuity now, like, where's Tim Drake and how has he been gone for so long? And what's all of that about?
Yeah.
Did they find him? Like, you know, did the time stream make him gay? Like, what is what are they trying to play here? I don't understand. Like,
dude, how fucked up would that be? And be like, oh, it's continuity. He was in the past this entire time, so he never had the chance to explore his sexuality. So they erased his bisexualness.
That would be fucked up. That would be random. That's probably why they put that joke in Crisis, or not the joke, but that statement, like, oh, it's just a phase. You're gonna go back in time. I already know what's gonna happen. Me and freaking Clark fuse, so I kind of know what you're talking about. It's just a phase. You know, can you imagine if they went that far with it? Like, holy shit! Like, goddamn. That would be fucking wild. But anyways. Let's go on to, we got to end it with Catwoman, because I feel like there's so much to talk about that. So yeah. Nightwing, finally some development with the sister.
Yes, finally.
Yeah. But what are your overall thoughts on the whole book?
This, like, I thought it was very clever, and like, I have issues and non-issues with the whole development of how the sister helped Nightwing and Oracle.
Yeah.
You know, basically frame but not frame, but just outed the commissioner for being somebody who works for Blockbuster.
Yeah.
But like, I also feel like Oracle would have been smart enough to like give a encrypted phone to freaking the mayor, the sister, right? I feel like that would have been a thing, but it's just very unfortunate that like she decides to call Oracle right in the same room as this dude, not knowing who he is from fucking Adam, and it's just like, oh yeah, this dude's gonna die because of me and what I did. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like,
or why didn't you just text? Like, that's a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was an emergency thing. I would call somebody immediately too. Although I don't know if I would do it if a murderous gangster was in the room over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She got blasted at the end, though. I was like, did she die? I was all like, can you imagine going through all of this and his sister just dies? My biggest issue with this whole thing, though, I don't like how Nightwing has just trusted her immediately.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the most un-Batman thing to do. And we all know that as much as he tries not to be Batman, he's very Batman, So I don't like that he trusted his sister like so quickly. Like there's not even an issue of distrust where he gains her trust.
So like I still think there's going to be a flip of the switch moment because
you think she's going to be evil?
I kind of think so.
I would hate that.
I don't want it to happen, but I just feel like everything happened way too conveniently to just fall into Blockbuster's hands,
Yeah.
And again, let's be completely honest with the stories that Tom Taylor has been telling. It's not that far-fetched because it is kind of his formula to, have the hero's loved one in possession of the bad guy and them having a standoff, whatever. That is classic Tom Taylor stuff. There, you see it in Superman all the time with John currently. So I don't know. Because I also feel like there needed to be maybe a little bit more between when she was introduced and now that she's captured to really get to know Dick Grayson and her relationship and to find some of those like, oh yeah, I really do care about you and blah, blah, blah. Instead of just like, oh, you're family. And I'm immediately going to trust that, you were telling me the truth no matter what, even though you work with a character like Blockbuster.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't had like the typical detective stuff either. Like he got a blood sample, he's gotten DNA, he's looked into her, Oracle's looked into her. Like it's just acceptance.
And here's the other kicker that as Batman fans, have we gotten a issue where Batman has been told, hey, she is my sister? Because I don't remember that.
No, but he did show up during the Alfred issue. But yeah, I guess, I don't know. But I also feel like anything that's happened in the comics is automatically knowledge to Batman. But yeah, so it's
because if it is knowledge to Batman, I could also see like there being an issue where Batman is a guest star, and he's like, oh, by the way, I went ahead and took a sample of her blood and blah blah, blah and did all these tests. And Nightwing being like, what the fuck, man? Like, I thought we've set these boundaries before.
Yeah.
Like, I could see that happening too.
Yeah, and it would be good if he's like, she's not your sister. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like, dun, dun, dun. And then we go from there. Yeah, overall, the story was pretty cool. But it was just a big frame setup kind of thing. How did you feel about flying Nightwing? Has he done that before?
So... yes and no. The flaps have been a lot shorter. These were like huge and noticeable.
It looked like the Spider-Man fucking monkey suit or whatever they call it. What do they call it? Lemur suit? What? No, it's not a lemur. Squirrel suit? Flying squirrel suit? They called it something. It's got Spider-Man? A name. Yeah, because he has the fucking the spread out wings too, doesn't he? Didn't that happen in one of the movies? Like
he has the spider webs like under his armpits.
Yeah, there's a name for that kind of suit though.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. It's also the flying mattress that Batman used in Batman. So I forget what it's called. I think it's called a squirrel suit.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it would be a squirrel suit.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but go on.
I think, like I said, I think he's had like in his original awesome disco yellow and blue suit that I absolutely love. He had the feathers, like the very small feathers that helped him aerodynamically.
Yeah.
But this, I felt like they were maybe a little too big. but I get why he's doing it. You know, he doesn't want the Fortnite glider, so he just uses the wings.
It's still so bad, bro. I'm glad you're playing Nightwing. So I got Batgirl, and she's got a
more of that footage. More of that footage is going to be out at San Diego Comic-Con, and they are finally putting out a Batgirl like centered trailer during San Diego Comic-Con.
Nice. So yeah, I'm excited to play as Batgirl. So yeah, there's pretty much that for Nightwing. I think we have some big questions, but I will say the story is still intriguing through all of this time. So I'm interested to see where we're going to go, because we left off on the last story. Heartless, or whatever his name is, was needed a new heart, and we found out that he was a cyborg. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go. But yeah, that was kind of cool. But let's move on to the biggest comic of the week that we've been waiting weeks to talk about.
Oh yeah, like a whole month.
Yeah, Catwoman 45. And this is what kind of sucks about getting books early, y'all, is there's shit we want to talk about immediately when we read these things. We would love to talk about 126 if we could, but we can't. So what happens here? Catwoman 45. The big talking point, and by the way, we talked about this in Discord because it was leaked, or it was preview pages, or whatever you want to call this, but it was on the internet. Once it's on the internet, I feel like it's fair game because it was over Twitter, it was over Reddit. It's like we can talk about it. And we found out that the scene that we talked about in 125 of Batman, where Selina Kyle is in her underwear, she's waking up. It seems like she's waking up from a night of fun or something like that, or just sleeping with Valmont, because he's like, hey, I got coffee, which is the international sign of we hooked up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And she didn't look like she was in a battle or anything like that. We talked about how some people viewed that as just how Batman imagined them. And I was like, kind of call bullshit on that. But we found out that the same conversation, we got the POV of this, because there's even an editor's note in this story that says, check out Batman's POV, because there's two sides to every story. And I believe that's an editor's note in Catwoman. Well, Catwoman and Valmont were getting into some action, and they were fighting, and I believe Nightwing shows up.
No. So it is, so everybody except for Oracle shows up in this book. We see Tim Drake, we see Nightwing, we see Dick Grayson, and then we see the Batgirls, which I'm starting to really hate the idea of Batgirls, because you can't call one without calling the other. You need to differentiate, and I think it's dumb. But yeah, you see Catwoman and Valmont fight these human traffickers in the docks. Yeah. And Tim Drake shows up. And I will say this, I really like this art. I think this art is great for Catwoman. Yeah.
Better than the last few, for sure.
And I will also admit, everything except for the POV of Catwoman and the Batgirl scene in this book, I actually kind of liked.
Yeah, this has been a better issue to read from previous ones. The Harley issues were just all over the place. Yeah. But I think it's because people just... We've always said that when you read Harley Quinn in her book, she's zany like Deadpool. But when you read Harley Quinn in other books, she's usually down to earth and pretty cool. And you just have to read them separately. You have to not consider her book continuity and the Harley Quinn and other books continuity. But I think some people don't understand that concept, and so they kind of write her zany. But yeah, so Tim Drake is talking to Catwoman, and he's like, you should probably get yourself patched up, because you can notice that she got hit or she got shot or something like that on the side.
It was a ricochet.
Yeah, like a ricochet. So this is where we get the POV of Catwoman. She's in the same bedroom that we saw her in previously, in her underwear and everything like that. She's in her underwear here, but she's wearing her Catwoman mask. And Valmont is talking to her, and he's patching up her leg. But this whole time, she's talking to him like, fuck you, you're a murderer. Kind of how she's talking to him. Yeah. Because she's like, this was not a direct hit, but a bullet that ricocheted. Must be why you didn't notice. All that adrenaline. He's like, you're a killer, is what Catwoman's saying. He's like, yes, Catwoman, it is not a baseless accusation. Your friend Onyx, she too is a killer. Not anymore. And then Valmont is like, then I won't be anymore either. And I'm just like, whatever, bro. But she's still saying, like, you're a killer. Like, you know what I mean?
There was also a scene prior to this when they were at the docks when, like, all the firefight was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it started to get a little annoying, but he's like, oh, should I make sure to not kill anybody in this fight?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't care what you do, just get them off of us. And he throws a fucking bomb at them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that didn't kill anybody. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily like that answer that Howard gave Catwoman of, oh, I don't care what you do, just make sure nobody, gets hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, she didn't even say nobody gets hurt. She just said, get them off of us is basically it. Saying, hey, if people die, it's fine.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to take that into consideration when talking about the voice of these characters, especially when you are writing in previous issues of, okay, Catwoman is against killing and she's against cheating on Batman.
Yeah.
So, like, then you kind of contradict it in these ways. Although people could probably be like, oh, you're splitting hairs or whatever. But
yeah, but I think that it's a little different than the idea of, ooh, Batman doesn't save anybody, so he kills people. I'm like, no, Batman doesn't kill people, but he doesn't save everybody. Like, he's a human. He's not able to, you know what I mean? Even like we have the conversation with a majority of the time, Superman is saving everybody, but when a building's falling, he can't just go and save every single person in that building, even though they try to make it seem that way, but it just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, that's just, like, it's part of the job, right? Like, and Batman's even had issues where he's talked about that. He's like, I try to save everybody, but it's not possible. And, like, it's part of the job, people are going to die. And so you can write a character that way, but to blatantly be like, I don't give a fuck, like, just get them off of us so we can get out of here. That's a little different. So then we go to the next page where Catwoman is dressing up back into her suit and she's talking to Bruce. So we're getting both sides of the conversation here. And it's essentially the same stuff. And she's getting ready. And then we get the panel of Valmont being like, I hope you're not ordering food because I just made coffee. And she's like, Valmont, I'm on the phone. And then Bruce is like, she's like, Bruce, I need to. And he's like, it's okay. I got to. And then it says, there's a little caption of Catwoman saying, men are distracting me. And so it's like, okay, Bruce and Valmont are distracting her, which is all right, whatever. Then we go to the Batgirls, and then they get into, they're getting some information from each other. Catwoman ends up going to this club, right? Like this club that's swanky or whatever, that you have to wear like a little black dress and be a certain type of way to get into this club, right?
But the women don't strip. They only serve drinks is like the big thing that they had to emphasize on this thing.
Which is weird because wasn't Teenie Howard's first issue a stripping issue?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's really weird. But, I mean, is that Selena just trying to get away from that because she doesn't want to cause any trouble? Like, I don't know. But, yeah, that was really weird. So, we have this montage of Selena getting ready. And, of course, Valmont is in there. All long hair, suavemente, Valmont. And he's, like, Selena's kind of, like, talking to him a little bit. And she's like, I'm going to get out of here. And then she sees Dick Grayson. And this was interesting because she starts talking to Dick Grayson as in like, oh, I don't think Bruce Wayne would be happy with how you're spending your money. And he's like, doesn't really mean it. I'm meeting somebody here. And then she says one thing that I found really interesting, which is, where is it at? It's the future mother and
so she says, so the conversation goes, if Bruce got a say in what I spend my money on, Haley wouldn't have so many Haley wouldn't have so many outfits. I don't know who Haley is. I guess the dog. Yeah, the dog. And he says, I came looking for you. And she says, you certainly dress like a young man about to see his almost stepmother.
Yeah. So still saying like we're about to be married.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So then there's not anything happening with Valmont. And if she is going to do a Valmont relationship, she's making it so much, making Selena look so bad by being like, I don't cheat. I don't want to do this. And if she were to like hook up with Valmont, it's going to look so bad on Selena. And if you go to the subreddits for Catwoman, that's what everybody fucking hates. So it's like, are you making Selena a cheater? Like, is that what you're trying to put her out to be? Blah, blah.
It's the forbidden fruit juice.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants it.
Yeah, apparently. So then it gets really interesting here because we have this inner monologue of Catwoman. And then we have a conversation between Dick Grayson and Catwoman that you can take in two different ways. One is it's a heartfelt thing where he's trying to be like, hey, I understand what's going on. And it could be taken as a positive. Like, you think y'all just need this, but there's actually more that y'all need together. You're talking about Batman and Catwoman. But you can also read it in a way of like, you guys tried, maybe you should move on. And it's just like, what the fuck are you doing here then? I don't understand. Because I think it's, let's see. I don't want to read the whole thing. You guys got to go read this comic for yourselves. But there's a line that says, and the love of a man, you wouldn't solve it for you either. So I don't know why you ran away like that from someone who wants you to be family. And I'm sorry if that makes me sound like a jerk. I wish things I wish things had worked out, but there is no hard feelings on my end. So it's like, did they break up? Like they never really broke up. Like, I don't understand it. Like,
well, and I also think that like as kids of a father who is probably not constantly dating, but then finds somebody and then all of a sudden they quote unquote split. Like, as a child, and I say child meaning the relationship between Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne, like, hey, like, I really want Bruce to be happy, and I really wanted y'all to get together, but, like, if you guys are separating, just know that I'm not going to hate you for it, but I really thought there was something there.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. And so I don't really understand where Teenie Howard is going with this. Because she's putting in all these things that make Catwoman seem like a pretty great person, right? Like, oh, she wouldn't, you know, cheat, or she wouldn't do anything. But if you read the solicits for the upcoming stories, it just seems kind of weird. So the next story, we obviously know that at the end of this book, there's some big guy in a cage. We don't know what that's going to become. So we can assume that that's what they're going to deal with in the next issue, but also solicits for the next issue talks about an old flame returning, and it's the chick from the boat, which is, she used to hook up. I didn't know this because I stopped reading Catwoman New 52, but the like geisha chick that's been in the previous issues, her and Catwoman used to date. That was the girl that she was a lesbian with or whatever.
I was going to say, I think they mentioned it like offhandedly in the past issues.
Yeah, for sure. But I didn't know it was the one from New 52. That's my thing.
Oh, okay.
So, so it's the same thing. So that's apparently going to be happening in the next issue. She's going to show up, and like they write it that way. Then in 147, this is the synopsis for 147. Things start to heat up between Valmont and Catwoman when the handsome devil in white shows Catwoman a grand gesture by taking her on a trip out of Gotham. How many high roller cities can the two burglars hit for a score in one night? The Crow in white and the Bat. Okay, the Crow in white and the Bat in black. If only there was a moral gray zone for this one cat. How do you take that synopsis?
Hey, I really want to fuck this dude.
Yeah. You think that would be cool with it? Like, I don't understand. Like, and if you were to look at the cover of this, it's like Valmont over Catwoman's face, and she's in like a nice little pose and shit. So I don't know what they're trying to do with this. And I wish this guy would just die already so we can get over this storyline. Because he's not a good character. Like, he's pretty boring. If he was I felt more threatened. Like, I would have seen the dude from Ram V's story, the cop, being more of a suitable person for Catwoman than Valmont. Because at least he was trying to protect her. He was trying to do stuff like that, even though I didn't want that to happen. But I was like, I could see it happening because he's putting his neck out there. He's doing all this crazy stuff for Selena to help her out in a good cause, where Valmont's over here just killing people and shit. So, like, I don't know what they're trying to do. And when they say now, Chip Zdarsky did mention that Catwoman and Batman are going to kind of show up in the next arc, but really won't be anything until like his third arc or something like that. So this is 2 issues from now. We don't know how long Zdarsky's like arcs are going to be. There are rumors that Failsafe is only 3 issues, meaning it would end next issue.
Hey, so I just happened to click on some things on Twitter. The upcoming Gotham Year 1 is compared to Sin City by writer Tom King.
What? Gotham Year 1?
Yeah.
Sin City, I love Sin City though. Oh, they're doing the panel right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting. Gotham Year 1? I wonder, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love Tom King. It's kind of a stupid title because are we talking about like when the fucking Mayflower showed up and they created Gotham? You know what I mean? Like Gotham's been a city for...
Well, it says here, Tom King announces new book, Gotham Year 1, promising to change the DC universe forever with a focus on Batman's grandparents.
Oh, interesting. We don't hear about his other family. And we talk about how the Waynes are definitely, you know, old money.
Yeah.
Do you think he makes them bad? Well, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Waynes have always been portrayed bad and his parents were the outliers.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it has always been.
Yeah. Which kind of like, you know, lives up to how Americans see people with money, you know?
But this means that if we are following the grandparents of the Waynes, we're also going to get the Cobblepots also.
Yeah, I could see that. And then maybe we'll have a young Thomas and see how he's molded into becoming a better person, I guess.
Yeah.
Intriguing. Gotham Year 1. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely be covering that when it comes out. But back to Catwoman, though. Like, again, if Chip Zdarsky, like I said, he mentioned that Catwoman will come in and out, but he's following Howard's lead on this. Do you think Failsafe ends pretty soon? Like on his next issue?
I don't see how.
I mean, it could, depending on what we know. You know what I mean? It would be bad.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, if again, there's this idea of like Batman when pushed to a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I will say.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm already giving away too much. Can, you know, do things, you know, to make his success in being a hero. But like, you make him OP, and where's the story?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because if you put him against a character that you're saying, oh, this is his doomsday, and then boom, next issue, you're done.
Yeah.
Regardless of if Batman wins or not, that's not a story.
No.
That's a boring story.
How do you like to say if the Failsafe arc ends in 3 issues and you're saying that is his doomsday, that is the shittiest doomsday ever.
Yeah.
I mean, Ghostmaker lasted longer than 4 issues.
Doomsday lasted more than 4 issues.
I don't understand why writers put that on themselves. Like, now, even with Tom King, with that story, change the DC universe forever. Like, those, I know those are buzzwords that every writer uses. Now, granted, with that particular story, I guess you're going to be learning about characters we don't even know about. So, like, technically, yeah, you're changing the past of, or the ancestors of Batman. So that could be changing the universe. But I still think that's just such big buzzwords. That's like, really, it's only going to affect Batman or the way people view Batman. You know what I mean? Not really anything. And it's not even going to have Bruce Wayne in it, probably. So it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, I don't know. But I don't know, man. Like, it's going to be really weird because with this line of, you know, the Crow in white and the Bat in black, it would be, you know, what would be interesting? And I would applaud Howard for this. If Batman somehow found out about Valmont, right? Like, he was keeping tabs on him, and maybe because they're robbing so many places in one night or whatever, Batman gets wind of it and he tries to stop it. And he shows up like right before something happens or whatever, and he's all like, "What are you doing, Selina? Like, this man's a murderer, blah blah." That would be interesting. And then they fight. You know what I mean? And maybe Valmont's about to kill Batman, which, that would be kind of weird, but maybe we can do some, you know, trickery or whatever. And then Selina, like, fights Valmont and beats and saves Batman. Like, you could do something like that I think would be interesting. But, yeah, I don't know, man. It's, I don't know what they're trying to do with these stories. I wish, like, I really enjoyed what Ram V was doing with Catwoman, because that felt like it was a Catwoman story that didn't need to revolve around a love interest, you know? And this is Catwoman revolving around a love interest, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe making the character look bad at the same time, you know? Now, I will say, Howard did come out and say that she writes in a way that she, like, knows it'll frustrate people and be mad at her. So she's doing that correctly, you know? Like, she's making you think, like, oh, it could go this way, it could go that way. But I am just saying, as a reader, and especially after reading all these little hints she puts in there of, like, stepmom and, like, that's not even a bad me and Harley would, like, type of bad me and Harley would be. Like, if she does go against her love for Batman, it just makes her look really shitty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I do want to point this out because I did see this on Reddit. A lot of people were saying, why aren't you guys this upset about when Batman kissed Talia? And I was like, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. We did talk about how it was kind of like one of those things where it seems like we know that Talia has no problem with raping Batman, okay? We know that.
Yeah.
So you could easily be like, there's precedent there of she forced herself on him, and then he was like, no, this is wrong, which that happened in the next issue, right? But yeah, I don't know. You can say there's precedent there for, like, she throws herself at him. But I did think it was very interesting that it's like, oh, y'all are making a big fuss about Batman. But I will say, Batman's not running around with Talia and being like, Talia, we can't. My heart belongs to another. Like, he's not, you know, she's not as big of a factor.
If you remember, they ended on the kiss, and then the next issue, the kiss ended or whatever. And Batman was going to say something, but then Talia was like, yes, I know. The other woman or whatever, referencing Catwoman. Yeah. So again, they were playing the audience with, like, oh, look, it is okay for this end of the issue.
Yeah.
But then you kind of have to play with it also in the fact that, like, he didn't have to say it because Talia then acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, she's okay with kissing whoever she wants because it's a power play. Yeah. It's not like, oh, you know, I respect you enough to not kiss you. Yeah. No, she's going to do it if she wants to. Yeah. And we all know that's wrong, but that's the character of Talia.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't she, like, bang Slade in the Batman versus Deathstroke stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then wasn't she, like, a villain in that too? She was, like, playing both of them or some shit. Something along those lines. So, like, yeah, it's what Talia does. But yeah, I am curious to see. You know, we know that if Batman wanted to, he would do whatever he wanted. He spent hundreds of days with Wonder Woman and nothing happened. Like, in a world that was only them two. Like, come on, man. But like, I don't know. It's just so weird that Teenie Howard is focusing on this so much, but we'll see what happens. I'm just really curious about the next issue of Batman, because if that does end failsafe, it would kind of line up with these butting heads the way he said, like, she's going to kind of be a part of arc 2.
Yeah.
And the timeline would fit up if this synopsis that has, like, the Bat in Black or whatever, if he were to show up in this issue or show up in, the Batman run. Because that means that would be issue 1. This is 47 of Catwoman. So it would be 127 of Batman. So it's possible, but we'll see. I honestly think that Catwoman and Batman should come out on the same day if they're going to be crossing over.
I could see that, or at least
I think it would help the sales of Catwoman.
Yeah. Especially if there is synergy with Chip and Teenie Howard.
Yeah.
I think it would make sense to do so. But then what happens once you're not crossing over?
Yeah.
You have to then kind of rearrange the schedule again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would confuse a lot of readers.
Yeah, it could be. But I mean, at the same time, it's like there's already people that are not reading Catwoman, And that's what we were talking about in Discord is the POV thing is interesting. But if I'm not mistaken, there's no POV edit or editor's note in Batman.
No.
So if you're only reading Batman, your visual of Selina is that she's sleeping with somebody else.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do well for your characters. You know what I mean? If you're trying to portray your characters in a certain way, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, I just don't understand what they're trying to do here. Like, I get that the crossover things are a thing, but I also think this is when you have to be aware of like, hey, look, Batman sells because it's Batman. Not everybody's going to read Catwoman. So we should probably put an editor's note to be like, make sure to read Catwoman 45 to see the other side of the conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't do that. So,
but again, it's very odd because how could you assume that people aren't reading Batman, but they are reading Catwoman?
Well, I mean, you would think that there's more people buying Batman, so I would assume.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So why would you need the editor's note saying, "Hey, you need to go read Batman," when you should be assuming everybody's reading Batman?
Yeah. So you're saying the editor's note should have been in Batman instead of Catwoman.
Exactly.
Got you. Well, especially if one came out first. Yeah, it should be in the first book, not the second book.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. We haven't got any updated books for a while. I feel like they've been off a week or two, so we won't be getting anything for a while, I guess. But so yeah. But that's pretty much all we got, ladies and gentlemen. We are hoping to get a bunch of San Diego Comic-Con news. So that'll be most likely next week's podcast. We'll have a lot to talk about, hopefully. But yeah, that's basically what we got. Clay, what do you got going on this week?
This week, coming up on Monday, of course, DC Alliance will be covering everything that is coming out of San Diego Comic-Con for DC. So a lot of that Black Adam, the Shazam news, if Henry is going to be showing up or not, I don't believe he will.
When are the panel dates? The Saturday?
It'll be, Saturday.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think DC is what starts everything.
Okay. Early.
Like, yeah, it's like the headliner, and then Marvel does everything else for
Marvel usually does it at night.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So there is that. Over at Star Wars Alliance, we have gotten 2 novels early, and we have already done our reviews for it. So not next week, but the week after, I think. No, it is next week. Next week, we are dropping 3 episodes on basically the same day. It's going to be wild, but it's more so to just show Lucasfilm that we can push out reviews for the books that they're giving us in advance. Mm-hmm. So that is the main reason why. So if you haven't read those books, don't worry. They will stay in the feed. Go listen to them when you are done. But yeah, that is basically it on my end.
Nice. As I always suggest, go look at my YouTubes. Go look at my TikTok too if you're a TikTok fiend over a YouTube fiend, which would be really weird. But hey, that's the world we live in. Definitely go subscribe on both of those because I make little snippets of my videos and I throw them on TikTok nowadays. So go check out either of those or follow me on Twitter if you want to just chat about random shit because that's where I'm always doing it.
Yeah, go watch Juice being a degenerate over at TikTok.
Yeah, you will have anime titties on your feed because that's what I like. So, you know, that's learn to live with it. But anyways, that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.